Have you ever wondered if your garden could do more than just beautify your backyard? What if it could feed your family, support your local ecosystem, and even combat climate change? Welcome to the world of permaculture, a gardening philosophy that harnesses the power of nature to create sustainable, self-sufficient gardens. These aren't your typical flower beds. Permaculture gardens are vibrant ecosystems brimming with diverse plant life, buzzing insects, and cascading water features. They're designed to work with nature, not against it, capturing rainwater, recycling nutrients, and fostering a rich biodiversity that makes chemical pesticides a thing of the past. This isn't just gardening, it's a revolution in how we interact with our environment. So, are you ready to roll up your sleeves and dive into this intriguing world of permaculture? Let's discover how it can transform our gardens, our lives, and our world. Our first principle is observe and interact. But what does this mean in a gardening context? Well, it's all about learning from nature and applying those lessons to our gardening practices. It's like being a detective in your own backyard, keenly observing how the elements interact, and using those observations to make informed decisions. Take, for example, the sun's path across your garden. It's a simple thing really, but understanding it can make a world of difference. You see, some plants thrive in full sun, while others prefer the dappled light of a shady corner. By observing the sun's path, you can determine the best spots for different plants, and ensure that each one gets the right amount of sunlight it needs to flourish. The same principle applies to understanding your garden's microclimates, soil types, and even the behavior of local wildlife. You watch, you learn, and then you interact. It's a constant dance of give and take, a dialogue between you and the natural world. And what's the result of all this observing and interacting? A garden that works with nature rather than against it. A garden that uses resources efficiently, encourages biodiversity, and minimizes waste. A garden that is resilient, sustainable, and above all productive. By observing and interacting, we can create gardens that are not only productive but also in harmony with nature. And isn't that a beautiful thought? Our next principle is catch and store energy. But how do we apply this in our gardens? Let's dive right into it. Catching and storing energy is all about harnessing the power of nature and efficiently using its resources. In the context of a garden, we're talking about the sun, the rain, and even the wind. Take rainwater, for instance. It's a precious resource that often goes to waste. But with a rainwater harvesting system, we can capture this natural bounty and store it for later use. Imagine giving your plants a drink of rainwater on a hot, dry day. Not only does it save on your water bill, but it's also better for the plants since rainwater is free of the salts and chemicals found in tap water. Solar energy is another resource we can catch and store. Solar panels can convert the sun's rays into electricity, powering everything from garden lights to water pumps. Picture a garden that lights up at dusk, all powered by the energy of the sun. Even the wind can be harnessed. Wind turbines can generate electricity, and windbreaks can protect plants from damaging winds while also creating microclimates for growing. The benefits of catching and storing energy are enormous. We're talking about reducing our reliance on non-renewable resources, saving money, and creating gardens that are more resilient and self-sustaining. By catching and storing energy, we can make our gardens more sustainable and self-sufficient. The third principle we'll explore is obtain a yield. But how does this translate in a garden setting? Well, in the simplest terms, obtaining a yield means that you are getting tangible benefits from your garden. Consider a diverse vegetable bed brimming with tomatoes, bell peppers, and zucchini. These aren't just beautiful to look at, they're also delicious to eat. Or think about a fruit tree bursting with ripe apples or juicy peaches. These aren't merely decorative elements in your landscape, they're providing food for your family. But obtaining a yield goes beyond just growing your own food. It's about creating productive and beneficial ecosystems right in your backyard. A well-planned permaculture garden is a veritable symphony of life. A dynamic system where each element has a role to play, and every role contributes to the overall yield. For instance, a simple compost pile not only reduces waste but also enriches the soil, promoting healthier plants and better harvests. Chickens, on the other hand, can provide eggs while also helping to control pests and fertilize the garden. See, obtaining a yield is about creating gardens that give back. Gardens that not only feed us but also nourish the soil, support biodiversity, and contribute to a healthier planet. It's about recognizing that we are part of nature and working with it, rather than against it, to create abundance and resilience. Through obtaining a yield, our gardens can become a source of nourishment and abundance. So, what will your garden yield? Our final principle is apply self-regulation and accept feedback. But what does this mean for gardeners? Well, in the world of permaculture, self-regulation is all about letting nature do its job, while we, as gardeners, step back and guide the process. Imagine this. Instead of using chemicals to ward off pests, we introduce ladybugs and other beneficial insects. These natural predators keep the pest population in check, fostering a balanced, healthy garden ecosystem. And what about composting? It's nature's way of recycling. By composting our kitchen scraps and garden waste, we're not just reducing waste, we're also creating nutrient-rich soil that boosts plant growth. It's a win-win situation for us and the environment. Now onto the second part of the principle, accept feedback. This is where observation and learning come into play. We watch, we learn, and we adapt. Did the tomatoes thrive in that sunny spot? Great, let's plant them there next year. Did the compost pile smell a bit off? Maybe we need to adjust our composting method. You see, feedback in gardening isn't about criticism, it's about learning from our experiences and those of others to improve our methods and yield. It's about embracing the fact that we're always students in the garden, learning from nature's wisdom. By applying self-regulation and accepting feedback, we can continually improve our gardens and our gardening practices. Now that we've explored these principles, how can we put them into practice in our own gardens? Permaculture is more than just a gardening trend. It's a philosophy, a lifestyle, and a commitment to creating sustainable, self-sufficient ecosystems. We've discussed observing and interacting with nature, harnessing energy wisely, ensuring a yield, and the significance of self-regulation and feedback. Now let's delve into the benefits of these principles and how they can transform not only our gardens but also our lives. When we talk about permaculture, we often think of its environmental benefits, and rightly so. Permaculture gardens are a haven for biodiversity. They attract a myriad of insects, birds, and small mammals, each playing a crucial role in the garden's ecosystem. By mimicking nature, we create spaces that are not only productive but also supportive of local wildlife. But the power of permaculture goes beyond our backyards. It's about creating systems that are sustainable and resilient. Gardens that can withstand the unpredictability of climate change, that can feed us even in times of scarcity. It's about reducing our reliance on commercial agriculture, which often involves harmful practices such as deforestation and pesticide use. In essence, permaculture is about taking responsibility for our food and our environment. And then there's the aspect of self-sufficiency. Imagine stepping into your garden and plucking fresh vegetables for dinner, or collecting rainwater for your plants. It's empowering, isn't it? To know that you can provide for your needs without relying on external systems. That's the beauty of permaculture. It not only feeds us, but it also nurtures our sense of independence and self-reliance. But let's not forget the community aspect. Permaculture is about sharing, about learning from each other. It's about creating a network of gardeners who are committed to sustainable practices. So here's a question for you. How can you contribute to this community? How can you inspire others to adopt permaculture principles? And finally, let's talk about the aesthetic appeal. Permaculture gardens are beautiful. They're vibrant, diverse, and full of life. They're a testament to what we can achieve when we work with nature rather than against it. So how can you incorporate this beauty into your own space? The power of permaculture lies in its simplicity. It's about observing, understanding, and respecting nature. It's about creating systems that are self-sustaining and resilient. And most importantly, it's about recognizing our role as stewards of the earth. Remember, every small step towards permaculture is a step towards a healthier planet. So why not start today? Your garden and your world will thank you.